everybody. My name is Bruce Rabuffo. I'm the chairman of the Board of Selectmen here in Hingham, and I welcome you to the February version of On the Issues. Hopefully, you all have survived the weather of this wintry season. We've had a number of storms of late, and the number over 10 inches is what has been surprising and different for us. I want to commend Randy Sylvester and Mike Mullen and other members of the Department of Public Works for the work they've done to keep the roads clean and safe. Of course, to do that, there is another version of it, and that is the fact that we have to put sand and salt. And I can attest to the fact that we are burning through, literally, the amount of sand and salt that we've used. I'm informed that this year we are well past 65% of the sand and salt that we normally consume of the initial load. We've already had at least one refill of sand and salt, and another is pending. That means for us as taxpayers that there may be a required reserve fund transfer to pay for the additional dollars needed to keep these roads clean and working. But it wouldn't happen unless we had the dedicated crews of the town's Department of Public Works, coupled with the outside contractors as well, who deserve credit for keeping it going. So I want to commend them for that, but also recognize that the weather has not been cooperating. I can tell you as a skier, I enjoy the snows that we've had. It hasn't been good, unfortunately, in the North Country of Vermont. This storm of this recent week, first week of February, has helped them greatly, but a number of mountains up there have been struggling because, unfortunately, the weather systems have changed, and we in New England and New York and Pennsylvania have gotten the brunt of those storms. So, but again, keeping the roads safe is our paramount importance, and I commend the DPW for that. In recent weeks, we have been conducting a number of budget hearings. The budget hearings that we've been dealing with deal with the town departments and some unique circumstances in this year's budget process. The first is we have the dispatch center, which, as you know, is the first regional organization that the Commonwealth has supported and Hingham has helped lead in its formation. The dispatch center is in its formative stages. All four towns, Hull, Norwell, and Cohasset, are in it, and we've are struggling through the early stages of the budget process for that. Unfortunately, it's with sadness that I inform you all of the death of Al Wallace, who is the original director of this center, and our condolences go out to his wife and his family. The other side of the budget that has come up recently has been a meeting, most recently in the last few days, concerning the school committee. As you know, we have a process that we go through where the school committee and the spokesperson is Dot Gallo, supported by our committee members, make a recommendation both to advisory and to the selectmen in a joint meeting. In this year's school committee budget, it's a little different than in past years. Their two largest drivers to the school committee budget are what we would call regular education. That is the education that we expect to provide to all of the children of the town. And then there's a second component of the school committee budget called special education. This is a form of where there are additional needs that we need to deliver on services to those students who need extra special treatment. This is a commendable effort, but it is also a difficult and expensive record. So in the past, this has been a growing component of our school budget requests, upwards at one point of 26%. But in recent years, due to population changes, and this year it is less than what was originally expended. So it would be dropping as a percentage of the total budget. Not by much, to about 22%, but dropping. On the regular education side, however, the school committee has put forth a budget, a recommendation to advisory and to the selectmen, that would be an 8.5% increase in the regular education budget. The special education budget, they expect to drop by about 5.9% year over year. So the net increase of, when you combine those two numbers, is their proposal is for a 4.9% increase in school expenditures going forward. Now that is their recommendation. It requires some review by the selectmen and review by the advisory committee. We had an opportunity to have some initial questions answered by Dr. Gallo and the chair of the school committee, Ray Estes, but there'll be more work to be done. And the question becomes, as we look at the budget, what are the total components and how do we address each of those components? Dot rightly pointed out to us the need for a balanced approach, what is fair and equitable, coupled with the fact of what are the needs of all of the various departments. I would ask you, if you get a chance to look at the joint presentation that occurred, to take a look at that and listen to her recommendations and Ray's and the school committees. And over the next month, you'll be hearing more of that, both in meetings at the selectmen's level and with the advisory committee as well. A second area where the selectmen have heard a recommendation from our committees is the community preservation committees. Their proposal for the amount of $1,598,218 in expenditures for 15 projects, I believe, that will permit us to preserve some historic sites, to provide some recreational facilities, and also purchase some open space. The details of that are also on the video here on HCAM that I think you would find of interest. This CPC monies come from a 1.5% surtax that's on the town tax bills. That is, the folks here in Hingham pay for it. And then that money by the committee is allocated by statute to various components that I mentioned in my opening comments. So it is something to think about, and in both the school committee, the CPC, and certainly some of the other recommendations that you've heard on budgets are in this now busy budget season. Our timeline for all of this is by March 20th. We will have the warrant ready for publication, and by that time, that means all of the decisions that have to be made will be made by the selectmen and the advisory committee. So I warmly welcome your comments and would encourage you to weigh in on your thoughts, because we are a town, as you know, that relies on town meeting. That's all of you, to provide input and make a final decision on how we should be spending our dollars. There has been other issues of late that you might be interested in that I thought would be appropriate. One issue that's drawn some attention is back in December of this year, the town received a letter from the regional director of the Department of the Interior National Park Service. And in that letter, she was questioning the arrangements and the administration of the Bear Cove Park. Now, for those of you who are new to Hingham, this is a parcel of land that originally was governed by managed by the Department of the Navy and turned over through the Department of the Interior to the town of Hingham in the early 1970s. It has created what is a wonderful piece of Hingham real estate, Bear Cove Park. In that turnover, there were some rules, regulations, and procedures that were negotiated at that time between the selectmen, then in office, and the Department of the Interior. The current director of the National Park, the regional director of the National Park Service, has pointed out what she believes are some disparities, perhaps, in how that administration of that agreement has been carried forth. You may have read about it in some of the local papers. The issue, however, we believe has been managed to a large extent according to the original agreement. However, there were some mismanagement or failures in our administration of that agreement. We received a letter in December. We very quickly responded to a meeting with the Department of the Interior. There was a series of 8 or 9 issues that she brought to our attention. They appear to be mostly administrative in nature. There were some suggestion perhaps that land had been inappropriately transferred to private use. That is not the case. I repeat that again, that is not the case from our examination. However, we have given her all of the information that we have on this matter, and and we are awaiting her response to our discussions. I wouldn't want you to think from what you may have read that we haven't been responsive. We more than have been responsive and have brought out the issues and addressed them forthrightly, and also to the extent we've tried to address any concerns that she may have. I would expect more to be said on this document and this arrangement as time goes forward. So stay tuned, you'll hear more of that. There's 2 other issues that are before the selectmen. As you know, there has been some discussion about a, quote, noise bylaw. This has gotten us some notoriety far and wide. I have to confess that I was interviewed a few weeks back by a radio station from Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. It seemed to have gone a little viral in its dissemination. Let me be very clear about the intent of this noise bylaw. It is not an effort to contain what has previously been permitted or authorized by our many boards that govern the use of activities here in Hingham. It is really trying to solve a problem brought to us by our police chief, Mike Perino, on an administrative issue. The principal concern Mike has is that if there is a noise violation, which as you all know could be subjective in its appearance, what may be agreeable to one person may not be agreeable to somebody else in terms of noise level or volume. Mike was concerned that once he comes to, in response to a complaint, that citizens would normally, in the vast majority of cases, comply with the notice that he and his officers bring to the table. When they visit to home and ask them to refrain or reduce the noise volume, most people quickly respond. In many cases, they're unaware of the level of noise they may be generating. But in a few instances, it is necessary for Mike to take further action. The problem he has is that the action that the state statute permits him to have is a criminal statute. That is, if you don't comply with the police department's initial request for you to be in compliance with the noise level, then he may have to take criminal charges. Mike, being the good police chief that we believe he is concerned that putting a criminal effect on what could be if you will, a disturbance may not be the right solution. So Mike is proposing a series of fines that could be at a bylaw level, a way to address the issue. And needless to say, when somebody raises the question of noise, that can create a period of disagreement and discussion, which in this case it certainly did, I can attest. We even made the London papers, I'm told. But I think most of the information was misinformation. This was to create, as I mentioned, a tool for the police department with a series of fines that would be a civil offense, not a criminal offense. And that is the intention of the proposed committee changes. So the Noise Bylaw Committee is still doing its work. There is information on it on the website, and this is another area where I think we would welcome your input. And we're happy to hear as many of you come to us on that matter. The last issue that you may have seen in recent days on the news, Channel 7 was here over the last couple of days on an issue where unfortunately a resident of the town was bitten by a raccoon. The police responded to it. The person who was injured unfortunately has been tested, and because the animal had rabies, the woman has to go through, as you know, the very serious and painful procedures for dealing with rabies infections. So the reason I mention it is to mention to all of you that with this weather and the the need to be concerned about animals. We live, as we like to believe, in a very suburban community, but with lots of woods and green and open space, so we need to be careful and judicious in how we deal with animals, and of course being safe and secure in our homes for that. So I just bring that to your attention, and I hope that you will all respond accordingly. So there's a lot more stuff coming down the road. I would hope you all stay tuned, and I hope you find this informative, and I look forward to hearing from you in the near future. So thanks again, and stay warm.